why don't we get into the Catelynn and Tyler story? Full disclosure, you guys, I have not yet watched last night's episode of Teen Mom Next Chapter. I'm so happy it's a finale, by the way, because that show, oh my God, it's so boring. It has been dragging on. So I think I will probably be watching that over the weekend and then recapping it to you guys on Saturday or so, okay? So basically, I did get to watch the preview of the scene, though, where Kate and Ty walk down the stairs and Kate's socks are mismatched, but that's neither here nor there. And they talk to Dr. Drew. And Dr. Drew tells them, hey, listen, I remember how I told y'all I would get in contact with like Dawn and see what I could do on the Brandon and Teresa front, right? Well, Brandon and Teresa have come back with something for you guys, right? On behalf of Carly. Carly wants for you guys to see her sing. However, we're not going to give it to you directly. You have to watch this while you're being filmed, right? So I guess they were going to go through production, Dr. Drew or something like that, to show it to them, screen share sort of a situation, right? And Catelynn and Tyler did not like this. They were incredibly upset by this, right? And so I believe that they ultimately refused this. And a lot of people are pissed, absolutely pissed off, because they're saying, what do you mean? You guys are going to turn down a video from your daughter because you want to be able to watch it off camera first, yet you guys have been doing everything on camera without anybody's consent here and stuff. But now all of a sudden, when the ball's in their court and they want to put things on camera before running it by you, it's the end of the world. And listen, y'all know I've been trying to ride for these people. I've been trying to defend them for a very long time, but I do see what it is that you guys are saying, right? Which is that it's hypocritical and that they are doing a little bit too much, right? Let me get into some of you guys' comments, okay? And then afterwards, we're going to get into the long tirade that they went on Instagram. And it did not go over well with the public, y'all. The public is pissed. The public has had it with Catelynn and Tyler. And I have to say, I was quite stunned to see that, right? Because when I did my little TikTok talking about it, I was just like, look, this is the message that they put, right? And then the comments were flaming them. And so I got to say, like, damn, I don't think that went how they thought it was going to go. Rebecca says, oh, goodness, that situation seems like all sorts of manipulative, like it's awkward at this point, or I'd hate to be Carly at this point in time. She's a plot point. Right? Hold My Foot says, I got so annoyed with that episode. As soon as chapter 2 starts talking about how Carly is driving, Kate immediately returned the conversation to me. Dr. Drew, not also it was Dr. Drew, my bad. Right? I did notice that in the preview, right? So Dr. Drew says, okay. Sorry about that. So Dr. Drew relayed a message to them, right? Which is that Carly is doing great. She is thriving. And so people expected for Kate happy about that, right? Isn't that what you want for your daughter, your birth daughter, to be doing well and happy and thriving with her adoptive family? But then like they just didn't look happy about that at all. Abby, what is this? Did you bake this yourself? It looks good. What is that? Like a pound cake? Yellow cake? That makes me hungry. Sourdough bread? What is this? Hot cross buns? I don't understand why they would want them to only see them on the show. That is so weird and doesn't protect her privacy, right? I can understand that perspective as well. Hold My Foot says, I'm sorry, you guys, I haven't had my coffee this morning. It's all good, but Rebecca says, and I'm wondering if this was MTV's way of forcing them to keep talking about Carly. At this point, she's been with her adoption family. There was over this a long time ago. It is so stale. I thought they would take any chance to see her, right? I am still so stunned as well that they did not take the opportunity to listen to it. And somebody in my TikTok comments, shout out to you if you're here, boo. Somebody said, you know what? What if at some point in the message, Carly specifically looks in the camera and says, listen, y'all, please take the world out the group chat. Leave me alone. I'm doing great. Anyway, let's get to these beats and start singing or something like that, right? Maybe they were afraid, right? That there would be a message, before or after the singing or something like that, right? That they didn't want to get out. Like a lot of people felt as though Kate and Ty wanted to control the narrative. And then, of course, there are other people who are similar to Abby, right? And I understand this perspective as well, who say, well, it is kind of weird. This whole time you didn't want the daughter in the public eye, but then you want this video in the public eye and not privately through the parents who haven't had contact with her in years. That is kind of weird too. Listen, at the end of the day, I feel so badly for everybody involved here, especially Carly, you know. And now that I think about it, I don't know much about adoption. I don't know like nothing. Like the majority, like pretty much everything I know about adoption is through watching the show, right? And so I can't imagine navigating this sort of thing on my own, you know, the way that these people are. Like, what is the right way to have an open adoption, right? Or a closed or whatever, right? And don't forget, this was not initially supposed to be an open adoption. It only became an open adoption at the last minute, literally in the hospital. Catelynn and Tyler changed the documents in pencil because they were not supposed to hold Carly, see her, anything, right? Y'all remember Tyler hovering over her to cover her eyes, right? And then they held her and they changed her mind. And then Brandon and Teresa accepted. So both sides were initially preparing for closed, and then both sides compromised incredibly to have it be opened. And they tried until they just couldn't anymore, at least on Brandon and Teresa's side. And I find that to be very, very sad. Hold my foot, John. No, come back. We still need your comments. They're so fun. Tanisha says, I feel so sorry for Kate and Tyler, but at the same time, they keep doing things that make Brandon and Teresa keep restrictions on their interactions with Carly. And I agree. They need to take us out the group chat and handle this privately. Okay, I get it. You wanted to speak out at a certain point, but it's been months and you're still here trashing her parents. And that's just, it's not cool. You know, it's not going to go over well. It hasn't gone over well. Janice says, and now that sounds like a setup though. Why make them see it first time on camera, right? And I can understand that too. That is a little bit shocking, right? Because you haven't had contact with this child in a very long time. Contact was cut abruptly. Now all of a sudden, hey, you can have some contact, but only if you get to react to it for the first time on camera. But at the same time, let's talk about the way that these people all set their children up to have their first everything on camera, right? So to me, them as adults, watching a video for the first time on camera is not as bad as the things that these people have subjected their children to on camera, right? What about when Amber, Gary, and Christina all had Aaliyah in the shower shaving her leg for the first time on camera, right? What about these people having these sex conversations with their children for the first time on camera, right? Those things are terrible. And on top of it, they're happening to children, right? So I can't feel too bad for them. Y'all want to put your children's first everything. You know, these things that they will never have their first of again on camera. Why don't you have something happen to you on camera for the first time? See how you like it. How about that? Ronnie says, I feel like they should have gotten a chance to watch it privately first. It's something that's emotional for them. And I can agree with it. But then when you think about the way all these people have sold out their children, right? Very emotional things for their children. Tell me how traumatized you are by your father. Tell me how traumatized you are by your mother. Let's have all my co-stars ambush you about your abandonment issues. They could go through one thing, right? In my opinion, anyway. Cami says, as a birth mother myself, I must throw in my 2 cents. Yes, please, Cami. These two are going about this incredibly wrong. They're only hurting Carly. Right. And I agree with you. I get their intentions. I think their intentions are pure. And I think that they are genuinely traumatized by the situation. However, they could have gone about it in a better way. Right. And, there's this element of child exploitation as well. It feels like the show is what has made them so hyper focused and hyper fixated on this child because that's all they get to talk about on the show. Right. That's been their only storyline forever. And it's too much, right? Obviously, that would drive anybody nuts to be ruminating about something like this. Lisa says, what if Carly made a rock song saying, I hate Oh my God, Jaleesa, you are on one today. It's like, I hate my bird. Damn, Screamo version. You know, that reminded me of the TikTok song, I hate my mom. Have you guys seen that, or am I just chronically online? Thanks, Tammy. Hey, BR, nice to see you. Gwen says, my 4 extended family members are adopted. When it's good, it's great, but when it's not a good fit and the parents expect too much, it can be horrible. And I don't doubt that at all. You know, I feel like adoption in general, we don't give it as much credit as we should for how complicated and how difficult it is to navigate. And I just says, I don't think Carly had a negative message for Catelynn and Tyler, only because Dr. Drew mentioned that Brandon and Teresa are okay with them sending gifts again and rebuilding the relationship. I think if Carly didn't want to be bothered with them, Brandon and Teresa would expect that. Would respect that, right? And I agree with that. I'm just sad that they opted not to do it, because again, the children always have to live their first everything in front of the camera as children. I think the adults could take an L every once in a while as well. Michelle says, I agree with what you said earlier about how they have brought everything public. So here you go. Watch this video for the public. Exactly, right? Brendan and Teresa and Carly have not had any warning or prep or whatever about the stuff that they've put online. Did they warn them before they put Tyler in a thong on the internet? No. Thanks, Ashley. That's so nice. I love me some Wendy. How you doing? Anyway, guys, remember, we have to get into the rant. Okay, so this is the big rant that was posted on Instagram yesterday. So it's the open letter we're going to read, and then afterwards we're going to read the caption that went alongside it. And this was something that was written by both Tyler and Catelynn, right? So they both signed off on this. Dear Teresa and Brandon, thank you for reaching out with a message. We very much appreciate that you took the time to do that for us. As far as Carly's song, it is such a beautiful gift and so meaningful. We just asked if we could listen to it in private first because it brings a lot of emotions and sadness. For us, it's so beautiful to listen to her, but it also brings up a lot of feelings. So we were just asking to listen to it privately first and process the inevitably intense feelings that come from it. But you need to understand that this also creates a lot of confusion for us because you get upset that we speak about our adoption story publicly, but simultaneously want us to share a very personal song regarding our adoption story nationally on television for the whole world. Which we will inevitably, guys, I cannot read today, which we will inevitably have to talk about publicly. It's confusing because you don't want us to have the song ourselves, even though that's what Carly wants, but yet you want the whole world to have it and are using TV to, and let me bring up the rest of it, right? Because I got screenshots of every slide. That was just slide one. So you are using TV to do so, even though you claimed many times that you do not want to be a part of TV. So I hope you understand how that can make us feel stuck, confused, controlled, and manipulated, regardless if that was your intent or not. We are incredibly sorry if anything we have said about our truth as birth parents has hurt you or Carly or negatively impacted your life. That was never our intention. As far as speaking about the adoption as a whole, we will always speak about adoption, share the facts, share adoptees' great stories and adoptees' bad stories. So we will always speak about adoption. We just won't speak about our own adoption journey moving forward, which I think is a great thing. Stop talking about this. You've got the message out there. We get it now. However, we believe that our advocacy for adoptees and adoption education should not have any impact on our reconciliation efforts unless you choose to make it that way. Well, that's not fair. You go out there in public, you're saying these people are so mean, they stole your damn child, everything. Adoption should be illegal. And then you say, but this shouldn't have any impact on us trying to reconcile with you. What? Then you have your psycho, followers going out there doxing this family, releasing these photos and videos of their child, telling these people, oh, she's going to want to come back and live with Tyler and Catelynn. You're not doing anything. Have you guys ever seen them publicly ask people to stop doing that? Maybe I am not privy to that and it has happened, but personally, I have never seen them come out and say, guys, please stop harassing this family. So you're doing all these things to motivate these sorts of actions. And now you're saying, oh, but it's on you if you don't want to have a good relationship with us. Stop it. But at the end of the day, this reconciliation effort isn't for you or for us. It's for Carly and what she needs and wants. But you guys don't know what Carly needs and wants because you do not know Carly. So we cannot allow any of our own personal pain and insecurities to get in the way. Now let's go over to the final part of this. Of that. We're the adults here, and it's our job to put everything aside for the best interest of Carly. The audacity that you have to have after this smear campaign that you have levied on the internet against this family and these parents in particular, to turn around and say, listen, we're the adults. We got to be mature here. Are you kidding me? And you guys know I've been riding with these people. I've been trying my best, but there's something so patronizing about this letter, considering everything that they've done, right, publicly, which requires open, honest, and transparent communication. So we hope moving forward, you will participate in that requirement. All right. Love, Catelynn and Tyler. And so this is the caption that he put alongside that open letter. Pictured above is our response letter we sent to our biological daughter's parents after they refused to give us the gift that their daughter wanted us to have and told us not to talk about adoption. We never chose to not listen to the song. We were actually super excited, very touched, and couldn't wait to hear it. But this was all thrown onto us out of nowhere with MTV's setup. We never pursued Dr. Drew's help on our own. This was all MTV's idea, since their producers were the only ones that our biological daughter's parents were willing to speak with about all of this. Their original plan was to have MTV film them and their family, as long as MTV didn't have them talk about the adoption while filming, which I think is lovely. Let that girl live a normal life. Stop harassing her about the fact she's adopted. She doesn't want to talk about that. She just wants to be. She wants to exist, right? Why are you guys using this as a gotcha moment? I think it's lovely. It would have been amazing. Okay. While filming, which MTV didn't think made sense, so they compromised behind the scenes with this song idea. The first time Kate ever heard her sing prior to this became a very emotionally intense day. So recognizing this and wanting to prepare ourselves, all we asked was to first give us a moment to listen in private. That way we could collect/process ourselves a bit. Then we could listen and play it on camera afterwards, like they wanted. So when we asked for the gift that their daughter wanted us to have, they said the only way to hear the gift is if we listen to it on camera, and that we weren't actually allowed to have it personally. We were so confused and hurt about why they would say they have this beautiful gift to give us, only to never plan on really giving it to us in the first place, even though that's what their daughter wanted. And so he wraps it up by saying, it was truly heartbreaking to have something so special just dangled in front of us, to then have it ripped away like that. Navigating an open adoption as a birth parent is so difficult, especially with such a constant and balanced power dynamic. Birth parents are always at the mercy of the adopters, which is understandable since we're the ones who relinquished our baby to them, but that still doesn't make it any less hard or painful. I think it's crazy to say that you are at their mercy when they currently, or for the past several months, have been at your mercy, right? With all the stuff that you guys have publicly said about them, the way that you guys have just incited a lot of hatred towards them, right? Whether that was purposely or, impurposely, but they have, based off the stuff that they've been saying, to turn around and say that you guys are at their mercy when you guys have millions upon millions of followers, rabid followers who want to break this family apart to avenge you guys, like, that's a little crazy to me, right? Although the message is true, right? That sometimes birth parents can be at the mercy of adoptive parents or this or that. I think it's a little bit ironic in this case. As I've stated before, we won't be mentioning our biological daughter or her parents anymore. I guess they're not allowed to say Carly anymore because, the way that this is a mouthful, every sentence, right? And that's why we're actually relieved that this episode is airing, so that way we can all just finally move forward. Listen, I really do hope that y'all are ready to finally move forward, because this is just not it. It's not, right? I want to see what some of you guys have been saying about this, okay? Let's see what some of y'all have been saying about it. Michelle says, I still can't shake the feeling that Kate and Tyler have been treating this like we're also adopted by Brandon and Teresa, and that's not what Brandon and Teresa intended. H. Crescenzo says, they only want to hear from adoptees that agree with them. Let's see them platform an adoptee who doesn't agree with them. Bet they don't. I'd love to go toe-to-toe with them. Ooh! You know what? Maybe you should write into their podcast, right? Because they've got that podcast. And it is true that so far, the people who've been on there with them are on the same side of the spectrum. But I do think that it could be important and interesting, right? And informative even for them to have people from the other side of the spectrum as well, right? Because not every, birth parent or adoptive parent or adoptee or whatever has a negative experience. Vodka Gal says, I'm still surprised that Amber was pissed about Leah's message. What did she expect? Listen, Amber, she lives in her own little world where, she doesn't do anything wrong, and people should be kissing raising her behind. Rebecca says, and guys, there have been plenty of adoption scandals and child selling via private Christian adoption. So this makes me really wonder how weird this really is. It seems like a huge American issue in child selling, which is upsetting to me, and why it's not being addressed. I do think that there are problems with the adoption industry. And so I did think it was great that they were shedding the light on that, but they've done it to the detriment of their relationship with Carly's adoptive family, just specifically shining the light on them and this and that, which sucks. Michelle says, look how they don't mind addressing Brandon and Teresa publicly again, right? Come on now. They can be public, but not Brandon and Teresa. Okay, Brandon and Teresa want her to have a singing career. Maybe I heard some of that, right? People said, let's put her singing on there on MTV. Let's see she can have a singing career. The video has since leaked, by the way. And I hate to say it, but it is true. The video has since leaked. And I saw it on TikTok, actually, and she does have a very beautiful voice. T-Root says, not an open letter to talk about wanting some privacy. Big, fat, egotistical, chronically online reality TV star. Hypocrites, tell them how you really feel. Why don't ya? My goodness gracious, right? BR says, I haven't seen the episode yet, but I will just say Catelynn and Tyler are exhausting and annoying. Like, can they please get a new storyline? And I think that that's what it comes down to. I think that MTV is the one that has perpetuated this entire issue. I don't think that they would be this obsessive if it wasn't for MTV. This has been their entire storyline. They've never been able or allowed to full-blown move on as a family without bringing up Carly at every given turn. And they've been doing this for so long, even before they had other kids, right? Remember, they still kept them on Teen Mom OG to show their journey. Remember, they were supposed to be getting these educations, becoming counselors or whatnot. So MTV wanted to follow them doing that while the other people raised kids, to show what the other side would look like if you were a teen parent, but you didn't raise your child. But they didn't end up doing that. They just popped out kids. Little Lost Girl says, hi, Grace, sending love from the UK. The situation, hey, UK, nice to see you, my little neighbor. The situation is so messy and sad. It seems all parties are forgetting about the children's best interests, not just Carly. And I can agree with that. And again, it's so hard because this adoption stuff, open adoption especially, like, how do you make the rules for it? Like, there's no standard way to do an open adoption or anything like that, right? So I find it to be just so complicated. Desmond says, they're not sorry. I ain't sorry. Hey, Ali, good morning. Nice to see you. So nice to see you. Listen, you guys, I don't know. Something in the buttermilk ain't clean. And nice to see you too, Farah. Good morning. Something in the buttermilk ain't clean with the situation, and I'm trying to think about Brandon and Teresa insisting that this has to be a publicly done thing. To me, I feel like the reason they would want this to be done publicly would probably because there is a message hidden in there. So listen, again, guys, I did not watch the episode yet. I will be watching it like maybe tomorrow or something like that. They declined to watch it, right? So now, like, how did the video get leaked then? What's the situation there with the video? Why is it online? I just find it so weird. Like, you guys haven't seen this child in years. You're talking about you want to see this girl. You want to know that she's doing okay. And so you get an update on how she's doing. You get a video offer too, but you don't want it because it's on reality TV. But then you guys, all of these people on the show, they all walk around saying, oh, like, we're so authentic. We show our whole lives. We don't hide anything. But you want to censor and control this. I don't know. There's something weird about that. To me, I don't know, something fake about that. Hey, Adrian, nice to see you. Thanks for coming out the bushes, girl. So nice to see you. Thanks so much, Adrian. And I gotta say, again, with all the stuff they put out about the children, what just came to my mind? Do y'all remember when there was this whole scandal about like a PDF file working in Nova's daycare? I believe it turned into a storyline on the show, or at least it was brought up on the reunion. And then Catelynn used it as clickbait on one of those things where you make money, with the clickbait. So to me, it's crazy that you do these sorts of things involving your children, yet you cannot just watch a video about, the child that you're hoping is doing okay. You haven't seen in ages and you just want to see her. Like, you're going to just shut the door on them because you don't get to watch it privately. That's crazy to me. And you're on a reality show. Don't y'all, aren't y'all supposed to show your real lives as it happens and stuff like that and see things in real time? Like, come on now. Like, to me, that was weird, but I digress. Listen, watch this space. I'm going to keep you guys updated. They said that they're going to stop talking about these people, but y'all know that ain't true. So make sure to come back when the next scandal pops up. By the way, speaking of the obsessive nature with Carly, why don't I leave this story on this note? I still have the video from yesterday's morning report in which we're talking about Catelynn mentioning how, what was she mentioning? How their 6-year-old is always crying herself to sleep every night over Carly. It's just gotten way too inappropriate here. Take a listen to this, and then we'll come back on the flip side.
I wasn't aware of that in the beginning, because then I would have found somebody who wanted a fully, like a family unit, where my kids. Lately I'm putting Veda to bed every night, and she's crying about Carly. So it's like, it's hard. Like it doesn't just affect me and Ty; it affects the whole entire family unit.
Anyway, that was something we discussed on yesterday's morning report, how incredibly inappropriate that is. Again, Veda is like 6 years old. She's met Carly like one time, 2 times maybe, but she probably only remembers her vaguely from this like one time, right? And so for her to be crying herself to sleep every night about Carly, who she does not know, is very inappropriate. And it speaks to how many of their own personal feelings have been projected onto these children in a very inappropriate fashion.